Afterlife.
Welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. All right. I was trying to do a pirate voice.
I was going for Elizabeth Swan a little bit, but I failed.
You did? I thought you were going for one of the other pirates.
I am Reese, the host. You are
David.
And you are
Irina.
And you are
The podcast.
Noah.
Noah. Why'd you sound so sad?
Because
I was coming up with a way to say it, and I was like, no, that's shameful. And decided not
You're
to.
going to do Mistress Ching?
No, I was going to do Elizabeth again. I was like, nah.
I'm
It
good.
makes me too sad.
And off in a distant land, we have
AJ.
And today we are covering the third film in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, Pirates of the Caribbean At World's End, directed by Gore Verbinski, same director of the first two, along with Mouse Hunt, The Mexican, The Ring, Rango, The Lone Ranger, and A Cure for Wellness. The movie stars Johnny Depp, Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom, Jeffrey Rush, Jonathan Pryce, Jack Davenport, Chow Yun-Fat, Naomi Harris, Stellan Skarsgård, Tom Hollander, and more.
Not Tom Holland.
Yeah, Tom Hollander.
Wait, no Steve
More of a
Carell?
Tom Holland.
Yeah, no Steve Carell. Oh,
Yeah.
Wait, AJ, what did you do?
Well, I got Keira Knightley right. And something about the end of the world. Seeking a friend for the end of the world.
Oh.
Oh, I did assign that to you.
Actually, that does make sense. Because
kinda
they're
does.
trying to find Jack Sparrow.
What?
They're seeking their friend for the end of the world.
Oh, was that Johnny Depp?
That's actually, you're probably the closest one.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
The movie's
This is
written by
progress.
the movie's written by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio. They also wrote 2 and 1, so they're nothing new there.
I wonder what they were on after the first one.
Guys, be
Oh my
nice
gosh.
to them. Be nice to
They
them.
were short on time.
On this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So you guys, had y'all seen this movie before the episode? David.
Yes, I have. I saw this right when it came out. And,
In the theater?
yeah, saw it in the theaters.
Were you working?
No, this was before my time in the theater. No, I definitely wasn't working at the time. And I remember having a positive look on it, although whenever you do compare it to the first one, it's different.
So that was your feeling as what, a 13-year-old or however old you were?
I was a youngster.
youngsterish?
He was a young tyke.
I had a lot of...
Just a wee little lad.
David, a wee little lad, when he saw...
I know, I was a
Third
cocky little
Pirates
jockey back then.
Bouncing in his theater chair.
Bring me my popcorn.
Do please bring me my popcorn.
No, honestly though, if it were me in the theater back then,
I plan to work here someday.
I love movies. I probably would have spent 10 minutes though, like getting popcorn, then sitting down, then getting back up to get drinks, and then going to the bathroom.
to the bathroom,
Sit back down,
learn
then
something
remember I
new.
forgot something, and then go back again. It's just how I am.
That's shameful. How about you, Irina?
I had seen this before. I think I saw it in theaters.
Yeah,
Pretty
I know
sure.
I did.
I know I was disappointed by the second, and so going into the third one, I was like, I don't know, we'll see. And it's still Pirates though, so I'll watch it.
Yeah.
And that was about
You had
my
to close out the
experience.
trilogy. Left on a
Yeah.
cliffhanger.
Oh boy.
It was actually a pretty decent cliffhanger.
Yeah. Noah.
We watched this in theaters with the family first.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a
It wasn't the
family
full
event.
family, though.
It was.
I don't know.
It was. We went on a Sunday with our father.
It was very
my
memorable,
mother.
obviously.
Anyway, how about you, AJ? Had you seen this?
I had not, actually. I think I was too put out by the second one to
Too
really
disappointed.
Out.
care about it.
Yeah, wasn't
but
it until last week you realized you had only actually seen the first two because all the parts you thought were from the third were actually in the second?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm the same way. I saw it in theaters, and I also don't really think I had revisited this much since then. So it's probably the Pirates movie of the three that the first three that I've seen the least of. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've seen bits and pieces here and there over the years, but never like the full thing through. So this is actually, it was almost a pretty fresh experience watching it again. I mean, there are things I remembered that were kind of just burned into my skull, but I actually realized that I never actually knew what it was about because it went way over my head as like, and it still did. I don't want to say over my head because I don't actually know if there was some grand plan, but yeah, I definitely look at it under a different light than I did before. Anyway, are y'all ready to get into the story here?
Yes.
All right. In Port Royal, Lord Cutler Beckett declares martial law and executes any man, woman, or child associated with piracy. The condemned prisoners collectively sing "Hoist the Colors" on the way to the gallows. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Turner and Captain Barbossa take the crew of the Black Pearl to Singapore to meet Captain Sao Fang, the pirate lord of the South China Sea. Sao Fang has captured Will Turner during an attempt to steal the navigational charts that lead to Davy Jones' locker. Beckett's soldiers suddenly burst in to assassinate the pirates, but the crew escapes in the chaos. Will secretly promises to deliver Jack Sparrow to Fang in return for the pearl, which he will use to rescue his father, Bootstrap Bill, from the Flying Dutchman.
Okay, so right off the bat, lots of confusion over here.
What is
for
happening?
Me, I had to at least rewind the first 5 minutes of this movie multiple times to try and make sense of what this movie was trying to establish. Like,
Yeah.
did
Hoist
y'all,
the colors.
So like,
That's it.
I have a long list of grievances that I painstakingly wrote out upon my analysis of the movie. And first on that list is the opening.
Wrong.
Now, here's the thing. First, when I first watched it, I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. But then it's like, oh, this is like Les Mis. Oh, wait.
do you compare
This is
every
not
movie
the-
to Les Mis?
Well,
No, that's
this
kind
is
of
not
what
Lord
it
of the
is.
Rings.
It is not Les Mis.
No, it's got that little boy that's going up
Oh,
there
no.
singing. But wait, it's also this kind of like, oh, the pirates are being persecuted. We are forming a rebellion.
It's
This
Even
is
though
not
pirates are technically not good guys.
exactly pirates. Exactly, they're
Even
being
when you're a
persecuted for being evil.
Okay,
it's not the
keep it-
same.
no,
It's-
no.
This is not the French
It
Revolution.
was no. They said any man, woman, or child associated with piracy.
Okay.
Even if you're not a pirate, they were taking you if you had any sort of relation to it.
Yeah,
Also,
but the
this
point is this is not what pirates is supposed to be about.
No, this is a fantasy. The
know.
pirates in this are kind of redefined as free spirits.
Yeah.
And the ocean is being
Just
taken over and
misunderstood
controlled.
rebels.
And it's not trying to say that all pirates are good. It's just like
No, that
Okay,
wasn't my point of contrition.
I feel like for the sake of having a meaningful intro to this third installment, they kind of forsake reason in a way where so their goal was to get them to start singing. That was the part that always confused me, was when
Yeah.
it pans over to Beckett and they're all like, "Sir, they've begun to sing." He's like, "Finally."
Excellent.
Like, I don't so like but does that
I-
set into motion things?
I took it as some undefined, like they don't define it at all, but it's like there's something magical happening. Kind of like when the Aztec gold in the first one, like the coin hit the water and there was like a pulse that sent out.
Yeah.
I
but
took it as like there's something mystical going on there.
It's so generically like I'm the bad guy that
Yeah.
I just don't even
Well, that's
like I
Cutler.
don't sense
or-
his
Yeah,
threat.
Cutler Beckett in a
at all.
nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in addition to that, they didn't set up really in the previous films that one of the main themes of pirates would be their persecution and lack of freedom. They only decided to do that in this movie, and yet it's supposed to have a connection to the second movie, and they're supposed to be kind of two parts.
It does
think
make
the-
sense a little bit.
I think
A little bit,
the
but
only
it's-
connection is that in the
you
first
know.
one, it's sort of this understood thing that Elizabeth has a soft spot for pirates because not all of them are bad. Some have some kind of moral compass, and that's what, she's supposed to be that in-between person kind of in the gray area.
Yeah.
And Beckett is obviously persecuting pirates. Like, that's his
Yeah.
thing.
Beside this point, though, the worse offender than that, because that I can put that aside and say, all right, whatever. But then you have Elizabeth Swann infiltrating the whatever place this is.
Singapore.
So I take huge issue with the scene where she's taking out all these layers of guns.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
And such, and she's just like out of skin tight clothes.
That was not skin
They
tight
are
clothing.
pretty
She was
We
wearing.
can see her clothing now.
Okay,
was
it's slightly
wearing-
baggy.
No, she also had an overcoat.
Yeah,
she?
they made her take it off. It's a really weird scene. He's like, take it off, like the guy she takes off her weapons, and then he's like,
Still
take it
cringe.
off.
The thing is that they keep furthering the sexuality of her character,
Yeah,
like
they did.
emphasizing, oh, this is a woman, but she's a woman warrior. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, I get more of a sexualization of her character
It's
in
like a
Keira Knightley than I do the empowering of women in this film.
It's like a misguided kind of empowerment.
Yeah.
There's definitely issues there, and I cringed at multiple scenes.
I think she's a kind of a modified Disney princess where she's still kind of a
Yeah.
caricature, but
Yeah.
they're trying to make her badass and an independent, like, kind of figurehead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But they do that much better, even with Frozen.
So I think this is also during a period of time where they were still trying to establish the female heroine, where they didn't quite know what they were doing with it, because there's still this strong male gaze in films where they have this kind of idealized woman doing a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't really make sense and doesn't make sense, especially with a female character. So I think this was a period of time where they were still grappling with trying to create or envision what a woman would be, or the best version of one to get behind. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt conflicting, definitely for me.
Yeah. To her credit, I think Keira Knightley's like trying the best she can with what she's been provided. Like, I feel like she gets a bad rap, but
Her acting's not bad. It's
you look at
the
every scene and
character
she's
that
like
is.
giving it her all.
Yeah.
It's just a slightly misguided approach.
Yeah. I think it was better executed than in the second one, where it's kind of more scattered all over the place. This one at least was in the same groove of,
Yeah.
I don't know, had a
She's
little
a
bit more
warrior.
direction.
So let's get off her back, and now let's jump on the script's back, which is like the real, honestly.
Well, we were
Well-
never attacking Keira Knightley.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, I know.
Everyone thinks I'm attacking her, but I'm attacking their choices for the character.
I was more
Yeah.
just trying to pivot to something
Well,
else.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
answer the question of the song because I had the same question too, and in the movie it's not apparent why they're singing. It's kind of just out of place. I think
Yeah.
it's really Beckett trying to smoke out the council or the
Yeah.
Yes. He's trying to figure out where this he's trying to
Brotherhood. Yeah,
start or at least be the catalyst for the Brethren Court uniting, and then he wants to figure out where they are so he can take them out in one fell
Yeah.
swoop.
yeah, and so I think the song is some kind of trigger to kind of start or
Create
initiate the
Yeah.
summons, basically.
A
Yes.
catalyst. if you will.
So, as I said, I watched the beginning of this, or at least this first 5 to 10 minutes, just multiple times to try and just, like, I was really hanging on every single word of dialogue to analyze whether or not this plot made sense.
Yeah.
And I think part of it does and part of it doesn't. Because,
Yeah.
like, I actually had to write down characters' motivations, what they were doing, and tried to see if it actually tracked. And to mixed results. I'm just going to read what I wrote here as I was watching this, and let's see if this makes any sense. So they travel to Singapore to get a map, but they are being sneaky about it. The previous day, Will Turner had tried to steal the map, but they also have a coin and message that they need to deliver to Sao Feng, who is one of the pirate lords. So why would you need to be sneaky about this interaction if you actually have to get Sao Feng on board to join this Brethren Court or whatever, because he's a pirate lord? Anyway, Elizabeth accuses him of cowering in his bathwater when he literally just received the message. So he hadn't technically been cowering there, but
Yeah.
then Sao Feng grabs a man who is in the water whose tattoo is being melted off.
Yeah.
When they already had Will, that like underwater,
Yeah.
who they could have held.
So the thing was he thought that was another of their men kind of infiltrating his little base or whatever, but then they find out no, that's nobody's man. Who is that?
Yeah.
Who does that belong to? So then they discover, oh, that's from Beckett or
I'm
a
just-
plant.
So it's like a convoluted mess, not to mention the thematic problems with having a pirate hierarchy.
Yeah.
One of the main issues, just after thinking about it, that I had with this is that they set up the code in the beginning, right? And they established in the first one that, oh, they're more like guidelines. No one really cares.
Yeah.
Some other pirates held it to a way higher regard.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway.
The point is, though, I have a problem with that because isn't the point they're making with this one that pirates in the seas should be free, and yet the pirates have rules and order and they have to stick to the code to the letter? Like, what makes them any different from a civil society if they have all these rules?
As you said, guidelines.
Well, it's
Yeah.
also what those rules are.
yeah.
Like where they
it's
draw the
just
line.
like it's just like why create that kind of system
well, it's kind of like
for piracy?
similar to the fact that we live in a place of freedom is, we can't have absolute freedom if we all want freedom at the same time. So we
gonna
have
be
to kind of
anarchy.
level that out so everybody has the same amount of freedom. So
It's-
it's sort of like an unspoken rule with them
it's
to
probably
respect
equiv-
each other.
Yeah, it's probably like equivalent to like street gangs.
Yeah.
Where there's like an honor code, where it's basically anarchy, but also like
To keep a
there's
small
definitely
amount of
things.
stability there.
So that everyone can live out their form of their gang, they have to
Yeah.
abide by a certain overall rule. But I do agree with you. There is no real way to make that consistent with pirates, especially since people would just convert to piracy for their own selfish gains. There's no
Is there an onboarding
order
class where
or
they're just
meeting.
like, all right, you're a pirate now, so here's the guidelines. Let me walk you through what our codes are. And if someone says parlay, chill.
chill.
No, because I think it's a contrast between what the government has put down and the actual society. It's more of a symbiotic relationship where, if you look at like Jean Lafitte, which the original ride is based on New Orleans and all that stuff, like he's a smuggler and he's breaking the rules of the government, but it's actually benefiting the society. They're able to get goods that are prohibited. So it's kind of a quid pro quo kind of situation with the average citizen, and then you have the brigands, the people who are on the wrong side of the law theoretically, but everything kind of exists in an equilibrium. And so they're kind of, there has to be some kind of structure. Otherwise you'd have mutinies every day. And then like in the first movie, Elizabeth mentions the code specifically of Bartholomew and Morgan, which they did have codes in real life. The Brethren of the Coast, which is kind of the model for the council here. So, I don't think that they're, just because they're lawless doesn't mean that they're completely chaotic, because you do need hierarchy in order to operate. So it's just depending on, they're just not going to, they're saying, I'm not listening to your rules, we'll make our own, so we can operate on our own terms.
Yeah. All right, positive notes. I like that this movie has more of a direction than Dead Man's Chest did. It has a destination that it's going to, even though it is very, very convoluted. The characters are given more motivation here, I think. Even though none of it makes much sense to me. I at least feel like this feels like, I don't know, a finale of sorts. So, before we move on, should we talk about Sao Feng just briefly?
I like that actor.
Chow Yun Fat.
I want to know what kind of make out pheromones Keira Knightley gives out.
Yeah, every guy's
Because,
just
They're
wanting to kiss
pirates
him.
and they don't probably have a ton of women on board all the time, so,
well, you look at Tortuga, why
and,
not?
And he thought she was a heathen god, and he wanted
Yeah.
to take her power.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
That's another thing.
thought she was
That's
a heathen
true.
god and wanted her to have all
So
the
what
power.
you do is you abuse them, because that always goes well.
And then you make them the
Yes.
captain once you die. Because
Exactly.
that's
I'm
logical.
sorry. Here.
Well,
captain
something tells me that
status.
he was trying to save his own soul and abide by the code and pass it on,
that
like so
makes
he had
sense,
to. So that I don't take issue with that.
I just thought
Anyway,
it was.
I don't think we're at that part yet.
Oh, we're not. Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah,
Definitely not.
there's less written history on that era in time for Singapore and like Malaysia and the South China Sea. So they kind of had to like make it up a little bit, and it got the point across of what the culture was and that kind of thing.
I
Yeah.
do think one of my positive notes for this film is they are still very consistent about trying to incorporate new locations for the viewers to see. You know, like since you are taking advantage of exploring this world of pirates, at least they're giving you more information to kind of feed your eyes upon.
Yes.
So I do like that incorporation of Singapore, and they do bring up Singapore in previous movies, so
Yeah.
I liked that, and they do put a lot of detail into their sets and the setting.
Well, I
I
agree
will say-
too. It really
Yeah.
broadens the sense of scope because, I mean, it's called Pirates of the Caribbean, but if you're going to World's
Yeah.
End, you want to be at
Yeah.
the edge of the world. You know, you want to feel like they've traveled, miles, and
Yeah.
it's a larger world instead of they're just, relegated to the new world.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, there's so many like jaw-dropping scenes in this movie. Like the visual artistry is like, I think it's the best of the
Yeah.
three. Like in terms
It
of
is.
just scale and epic
Yeah.
scope, and as
Yeah.
y'all
And the
already
music
said.
in this was amazing.
The music, I
Yeah.
think, it's the best score of the three. Like because it incorporates the best moments of the first score and adds new themes, which I feel like the second one didn't really add that many new themes. This one actually has like a full blown like new theme in there that's
and
incorporated
it feels
a lot.
way larger, in my opinion. For some reason, the impact of the music feels like it holds more weight than the other one.
Yeah, the spectacle is larger in this film as well.
Yes. All right, let's carry on that story.
All right. The crew travels to the locker, rescuing a deranged Jack and recovering the Black Pearl. The crew encounters many dead souls, including Governor Swan, who was executed by Beckett. Teodalma reveals that the goddess Calypso charged by Davy Jones with the job to guide the souls of those who died at the sea to the afterlife. Once every 10 years, he could come ashore to be with the woman he loved, but he corrupted his purpose and was cursed to become a monster. The soul of Governor Swan reveals that whoever kills Jones by stabbing his disembodied heart must take his place as the Dutchman's captain.
Ugh.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So let's first talk about Davy Jones' locker. This is the weirdest this franchise has ever gotten. Like it, and I dig it. It is so different.
Yeah.
I really like this. I don't know why.
I am on board too. Just because like there were certain plot issues, you can still enjoy certain moments,
Yeah.
regardless.
I like that Jack is forced to contend with multiple versions of him, all vying for attention, and it's just like ego against ego, and just this kind of like the ultimate hell for him is
Yeah.
like other people like him soaking up the attention. And you don't like that, Noah?
No.
I see you just
Why? I
cringing
love
so
that.
hard.
I thought it did it
I
well
don't-
because he's also demonstrating how capable of a sailor he is, because he's commanding the ship, giving orders, making sure things are shipshape and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
being a
So-
true captain.
I have less. The reason I don't like this, I know I'm always like I only have something negative to say, but the reason I don't like it is because you could have had a lot of mystery to this movie. Oh, he's in Davy Jones' locker. All right. Let's make this like they could have gone just a
don't
lot more
like-
intriguing of his own.
You
but
want more
ins-
mystery.
Yeah, but instead they decided, let's change it to kind of a joke where he's.
That wasn't a joke.
It
Like,
kind of was.
well,
it was
they're
meant
trying
to be humorous.
It's humorous, but it's also showing like if you're in that scenario, that's miserable. Like that is not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's his delirium. I mean, I thought it was better humor than the slapstick of the second movie.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
I just
That's
thought
not the point I'm debating, but I just want them to, take themselves seriously for once and just not have to have everything be humorous.
I mean, it's Jack Sparrow.
You know?
He can't be, dead
Yeah.
serious the whole time. I thought
Yeah,
this was
he's
actually a
the
really
humorous
good
character
return
from
to
the very
form,
first
but
movie.
balancing out the humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know he's a humorous character, but the thing is, right now he's by himself. He just sacrificed himself to a kraken and died, and now he's pretty much in hell, and it's still a joke.
He's in Davy Jones'
Like
locker.
he's still, it's still like a humorous scene. Like I would have liked to have seen him a little more serious for once, and then he can be back to his antics later in the movie when
I
they get
always
him
got
back.
the impression that it was less of a hell and more of a limbo, where
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
not
that's fair.
really in hell. But the interesting thing is that he essentially has what he wants, aside from rum, maybe. But he has the pearl. He's basically only with himself, but still there's something lacking, and he that he has essentially everything he's craved his entire life, but no
Freedom.
fulfillment.
I might be the only one that thinks this, but I actually think Jack Sparrow has a slightly darker edge in this movie than the second one. Mm-hmm. Like, he's actually... There are moments where he literally betrays other main characters.
Yeah. The thing that was interesting about the whole journey of his character through these 3 films was in the first one, I really enjoyed it because there was just enough slapstick for me to not find him completely ridiculous. And that question of, oh, does he have everything already planned, or is it just, him stumbling through life? The second one felt the complete opposite, where, oh, he's just a bumbling fool and just has a lot of luck. And then in this one, it's like they kind of steered it back again, where he feels more in control. But at the same time, the problem is I'm tired of everyone making a comment about it around him. You know, like they're kind of trying to talk like the audience, and I'm like, how about just let me watch it, don't
Do you think he has a plan, or do you think he's making up as he goes?
For what it's worth, there was a scene like that in the first movie where it's like, that's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen.
Yeah, but that's at least more layered. In this, it's literally like, do you think he knows what he's doing, or is he just, stumbling around?
Yeah, that is literally what the audience is thinking.
Come on.
You're right.
I want to say
It's like
the actual environment, like the salt flats and just the isolation of it.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to kind of pique the question a little bit of, are they really rescuing him? Or as we find out, they're just going after their own selfish means. Even later, he's like, did anyone actually come to rescue me for my sake?
Yeah.
Or are they all
The 3 humorous
doing it for their
pirates raise
ulterior
their hands.
motives?
Yeah.
And so, like, he's basically fine there pretty much. And then they show up and kind of wreck his day almost, even though he is isolated.
I don't think he was having a great time over there.
Yeah,
well, no,
I wouldn't say a great
the thing
time,
is,
but-
he was actually by himself finding a way off the island. Remember, when they show up, he's got the ship and he's...
Well, I think the reason the crabs took it there was because they knew they were coming.
No,
I think it was
none of y'all got this.
combination.
The crabs was Calypso.
Yeah.
That was Calypso bringing his ship to
'cause
them.
that's basically
Oh, and he
her
just hops on.
familiar.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Not
I
enough
guess
explanation on that part.
we can move on to the up is down sequence, I guess.
Yes.
Ugh.
All right.
sorry.
You say your piece on that. Let's let Irina talk.
Aside from the 2 little side characters who are constantly funny and I always enjoy watching them, I think this is the kind of large scale stuff that I don't care for. Is even though it's a children's film, I get it. I love the adventure sequence, but I don't care for making magic just so outright obvious, you know? I think that's what this film does, is that it kind of completely abandons mystery, not misery. There's plenty of that. For the sake of just kind of, hey, pirate magic left and right, here we go. Now we have a goddess.
I think what the series
Which also
has,
makes me mad.
I feel like what the series actually is, though, is like literally every pirate legend you've ever heard is real.
And
like
done
that,
wrong.
Yeah, no, I would
Well,
I would
it's
disagree.
an
with
you
you.
just don't want
artistic
them at all.
license.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so
rather than
here's the
not
thing.
have it.
Kraken, awesome.
So you want to pick and
But now it's
choose your
dead.
pirate magic.
Yeah.
No, because the Kraken has a lot more relevance to pirate lore in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
I have more of an issue with their portrayal of Calypso.
Okay.
You just
So before you go into it, I think that I have no problem with them taking folklore and kind of reimagining it, because that's kind of the point of folklore, is that it's constantly reimagined. There's no true version of it. So it's just through tellings and retellings that things start to shift, you know? So I have no problem with that. I think just the way it's written feels kind of like they just winged it and didn't really have a grand plan, just wanted to use a whole bunch of computer graphics to create some sort of spectacle.
You nailed it on the head, I think.
Yeah.
The writers actually, the script wasn't even done by the time they started rolling cameras on this. And that's just because movie schedules, like, they got to get a movie out. You got a release date.
Yeah.
pump.
And that's not, I don't think that's the filmmaker's fault or the writer's fault. I feel like if this movie had another year in the oven to
Yeah.
just bake.
I would have been excited to see that, yeah.
My feeling on this movie is I think it had all of the elements to be the best in the franchise, but because it was rushed out the door, it suffers in a lot of story areas. And the thing is, I actually think most of the fantastical stuff is really well realized and it looks spectacular, but it's just slightly misguided.
So I will say why I don't like Calypso. It's not her character. I liked her as Tia Dalma. I don't like her as Calypso, the sea goddess that can control all the stuff and the crux of the entire plot. I don't like that she's the reason that everything is converging when she actually has no real effect on the story.
She's not the reason. She's like...
Yeah, she is, because Davy Jones
She's the reason for Davy Jones. Beckett
Admiral
does
Beckett
not care.
No, he wants to control the sea and he wants to destroy all the pirates, is what Beckett wants to do.
He has no interest and barely any knowledge in Calypso, though.
Yeah, but the point is he's subduing Davy Jones. The reason Davy Jones is going along this way is because of Calypso. Barbossa wants Calypso in order to even up the fight and set her free, set the oceans free.
To me, Calypso is just like a siege weapon. Like that's what she is.
Yeah,
like,
but the problem is you shouldn't build up this character as some monumental part of the plot and then in the end like, oh, it's a whirlpool.
That wasn't what that was.
No, like she summons the whirlpool, but then after that, it doesn't really conclude her character arc. They just
that's all you got out of
set
that
her
character?
free, and
Well,
now
I think it's true to what the character was established because she stood up Davy Jones when you're supposed to rendezvous with her. I mean, she's basically an indifferent goddess, and she's going to do what she does. She's going to
it's her whim.
use the natural powers, and then
yes.
So
her character. The problem is her character makes sense, but she shouldn't be the motivation driving the story. She shouldn't be the plot device that gets everything to converge.
So
I super strongly disagree with you, but go ahead.
She's using.
Oh, go ahead.
She's using Barbossa as a pawn in order to get herself free. It's not.
Yeah.
She's the one driving it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the point of her character, and it kind of gets she kind of feels like misrepresented here, but I get what she's supposed to be doing. Is ultimately she is supposed to be the one that is aware of everything going on, and this is all basically her idea. And that goes along with the character of Calypso in mythologies, because she is strictly represented as someone who misguides, especially men, from their true paths. So, like in lore and in the Odyssey, she distracts Odysseus from getting back to Ithaca and back to his family. And so she's strictly someone that it misguides people, and that's just for her own investment. So I think that character type makes sense. I like her reimagined in this role, but she gets kind of pushed to the sidelines as being used by everyone to get what they want. And I feel like there's a lot of missed material there.
So it's almost like
her.
the framing of her, because what they did was right, but they framed it all wrong.
Yeah, I think that's a huge problem just with a lot of things about this film. I know where they're coming from, but it's misrepresented in the way it was cut in film.
It's because they decided to try and wrap up 3 different movies in one.
I agree with what Reese was saying. I still think they could have done it if given more time. They just didn't have the time to do it.
And they could have, or not to sound like a broken record, with another movie in the series. Although, at this point, but I'll stick to my belief in the second one. I think the second one should have been Davy Jones' locker and completely forget about Beckett. Maybe having him have a brief scene and hold him off to be the main villain in the next one. And during that time, you can focus on the kind of tragic love story of Davy Jones and Calypso.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that, and they decided to put both stories in the second one and then both stories in the third one.
So where are we storing the
movie?
Yeah, where are we in the story right now?
Right. Yeah, I think we're speaking too high level, right? Too early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as we want to,
I
because
know.
it's all connected.
So
but-
the last thing we kind of left off is when they left Davy Jones' locker and they see the souls and they see Governor Swan, and he kind of gives them the
yeah.
information that he learned, which is if you stab the heart, you take over the flying.
A clever bit of exposition that they need to know
Yeah.
for the story. Like it was obvious. Like, oh, this is how you could tell the writers were
Yeah.
like, how do we let the main characters know that this is what they need to do?
Yeah.
But also, like, it's kind of a cool way to do it,
Yeah.
to see the
So
ships of the dead kind of passing.
I really liked the imagery. I think that was really cool, and having Elizabeth be able to like have that emotional moment where
Yeah.
she starts to realize her dad's dead. you
That was
know?
intense.
that
actually.
line he
okay.
gives, that Jonathan Pryce gives, is so good. He's like, "Are you dead? I think I am."
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's just so like.
I think I might be
All right,
dead.
so conceptually, this scene is really cool until it actually doesn't make sense.
Can you say something nice about this movie?
Yeah, like
Until
I
it
said,
doesn't make sense.
conceptually it's cool.
Conceptually,
but
it's nice.
They stated before this scene that you can't communicate with the dead, and then they
No, they
communicate with the
didn't.
dead. They did.
No, they said that you are like a ghost to them. That doesn't mean you can't communicate.
Okay, you're like a ghost to the what?
Yeah.
What is that supposed to mean?
That means
then?
as they're passing by, like it's only like a foggy thing for them. Like you can communicate to them. Like they never said you could not communicate. That was not a line in this movie.
All right, fair enough. In that case, how did he know about the heart? Like, how does he know?
They
That's how you do
explained
it. Why
it
does
a
he-
little bit earlier. I do think they could have done it better.
Well, no,
but
they-
did touch on it.
Yeah, because that evil a-hole who gets killed by the tentacles, Cutler, whatever his name is, he's like,
Cool death,
Swan
by the way,
is
actually.
Swan has been asking about the heart, and then Beckett's like, does he know too much? And then that's all you know. Then from there you
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they could have done
That's
a little
too
bit better.
like.
but they
why-
did.
It's
they did
there
show
though.
you.
The
But the
breadcrumbs
thing
are
is-
there.
Yes, it's there, but why would he like? Oh, let me just tell Elizabeth Swan this.
Do you really want that side story? Do I want to watch that? No.
But the point of a movie is you should have to set up, like you should set things up right.
Yeah.
you know.
I
Fair
still
enough.
think that.
I
whole
know
scene
I'm
with
being
him-
really critical, but
I thought the whole scene with the dead on their boats was really cool. I
Yeah.
love the imagery. I really liked. I liked all of his lines in
That's
that part.
downright macabre.
Macabre.
I like,
And then-
what would happen if you drop a cannonball on him?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I think Calypso looks at him and then they're like, "Oh, that would be
right.
disrespectful." But I also liked his line where he says, "You know, seems rather silly now." Like when Governor Swan was looking back on his actions, now that he's dead, it just like the weight of it all completely changed for him. It really makes you think.
Yeah.
I'll say something positive. I agree. I actually, outside of the just kind of them trying to do a quick exposition drop, this is a really cool scene for them to have. And I do like the display of emotions in the characters, and I love the like bodies floating under the thing, the boats going over. It's a really cool kind of creepy vibe, and I would love, like, I wish the full movie had that kind of creepiness
Yeah.
to it.
They also did use this as a way of explaining why Davy Jones isn't helping shepherd the souls over to the other side, which I thought was interesting as well. Because I know they talk about it, but I never actually imagined him taking bodies to the next.
Yeah. The only reason he's monstrous is because he kind of abandoned his station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just went rogue, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he was neutered by Beckett.
Well, no, even before that, he
Even,
had
yeah, it's
he
before
had
that.
he kind
Oh,
of
really?
gone towards the revenge angle. You know, and
Was that in the second one?
Second. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's furthered in this one still.
yeah, it kind of further explains what he's doing. I
Yeah.
guess.
They do. What I want to know, like, what kind of effect that had on the world. Him not doing it, if he could just abandon it for so long.
A bunch of souls trapped in the ocean. That's what happened.
People just sail by, like, wait a minute, who's that? Mom.
Never mind.
Before we move on, I do want to I love kind of, this is a vibe I haven't felt in any of the Pirates movies before, the kind of limbo, this whole kind of excursion out into the locker and back has this kind of eerie, mystical feel to it that's,
not of the world.
it feels distant, yeah, and not of the world, and I really do think they captured the at world's end thing that they were going for with this movie, so,
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, you
Shall we
continue the story?
continue? Returning to the living world, the Pearl stops at an island for fresh water, where the crew find the Kraken lying dead on the beach, having been killed by Jones under orders from Beckett. They are then attacked by Sao Fang and Beckett's men. Through a series of deals, Elizabeth is handed over to Fang, who believes she is the goddess Calypso. The rest of the crew make for Shipwreck Cove aboard the Pearl. Jack throws Will off the ship when he discovers him, leaving a trail for Beckett to pursue them. Sao Fang tells Elizabeth that the Brethren Court bound Calypso in human form after she betrayed her lover, Davy Jones. He plans to release her to defeat Beckett. Davy Jones attacks Fang's ship, the Empress, mortally wounding Fang in the process. Fang appoints Elizabeth his successor as Pirate Lord before dying. Elizabeth and the crew are locked in the brig of the Dutchman, where she finds Bootstrap Bill losing himself to the Dutchman's curse. Admiral Norrington frees Elizabeth and her crew from the Dutchman, but is killed by Bootstrap Bill.
Okay, so someone tell me, and this was a problem I had with the first bit of this movie, and I still don't think it's cleared up at this point. Like, what is Sao Fang getting from Will Turner? Like, what's the deal? Because, like, Will Turner said he would go get Jack because he wanted the Pearl to rescue his dad.
I can clear this up.
I know, but just a second. Other than Sao Fang wanting to kill Jack Sparrow, that's all I get out of that.
So Sao Fang was turning coat on the pirates to join the winning side with Beckett.
Yeah, but how does this benefit him?
Because Beckett wants Jack Sparrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
So it's kind of weird, I guess. They kind of gloss over it really quick, but that is his kind of motivation. And then Barbossa tells him the whole Calypso thing, so he's like, oh, okay.
Well, now I'm back on board.
Yeah.
I will say it is difficult to follow because they try to throw so much at you at once that things go by too quickly.
This is a massive dump of, like, plot vomit. Like, at this exchange moment, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Where just the ships meet. Just so much happens in that span of 5 minutes. It was like just whiplash.
Wait, she's
going
a Captain Lord now? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna say anything.
Yeah, I can get on board with it, but it also at the same time was so fast. Your like brain is trying to process what it even means.
Yeah, I was like trying to watch a Guy Ritchie movie, like for a second, but not as well. Not as well explained.
Yeah,
the montage.
Like one of my annoyances with this movie is that almost every single character is diminished in this one compared to it's like negative character development for them because. Well, they have Norrington become lustful at the last moment, and he's like, all right, I'll save you. And
I liked that.
Then yes, but it's just too many changes to it. Like
you picked a weird one to go down on.
Okay, I was going to move on. He's not the main offender. Barbossa has lost his teeth, essentially, whenever he died, so he's now, a lesser character from when he was in the first one. Sure, he's a better character and he's kind of having a slight redemption arc, but I don't think he should be. And then Davy Jones, as well, has been neutered by Lord Beckett, and he's just obeying the whim of a man.
Dumb little lord.
This little guy with a silver spoon up his butt. And, I just don't think that any of these characters are acting like how they would have been set up. Not only that, Will Turner dumping bodies off the edge, did he kill them, or did he just find them on the ship?
I don't know. It's not explained.
Exactly.
I was just assuming there was a battle and they were dead bodies. Because they left, and it was, just
and what else
canon.
But see, at that point, also, Will Turner is less pure than he once was as well, which is it's just so many different characters not going the way that you want them to.
I don't know. I guess certain people maybe.
AJ or Arena, did you have anything to say about all of this?
So what sequence are we talking about exactly?
There's a lot of them.
Because there's I know there's the whole Elizabeth becoming a captain, and where did we end on that reading?
That Elizabeth
right
becoming captain's towards the end of this thing.
And the last thing we talked about is when she goes and meets up with Will's dad, who is kind of integrating with the ship.
Oh, okay.
He's becoming part of the ship.
Actually, that was another scene that this movie actually had a couple really sad, touching moments, and that was the second one, because the first one was seeing her own father,
my man Norrington,
which she kind of soon after forgets that her dad died. But when she's talking to Bootstrap Bill, that whole losing parts of himself to the ship.
He's become Dory.
Yeah, well, the sad thing was it kind of does represent someone that you know starting to lose their memory to what have you, Alzheimer's or dementia, and then repeating a conversation that they've already had with you. Just sort of that really sad, oh no, they're losing their memory. And then in a way that's almost worse.
He's such a tragic and honorable character in a way, because he's just willing to give his life an eternity of servitude of the worst type, just to, make sure Will Turner's okay.
Yeah.
I will say I was slightly confused as to how quickly this came on. I mean, I feel like the last movie, he was extremely coherent. And then within one movie, he is integrated with the ship.
I think there is supposed to be reset at one point that there's supposed to be more time that has lapsed between these two.
I did look into it. I'm pretty sure it was about a year since then.
Yeah.
And I agree with David. It doesn't quite make sense that he had a lot of mental
breakdown.
It could be
detriment in 1 year versus the last 20 years.
You could explain it by, even though it's not very well filmed, or you just get confused by everything that's happening. But it could be that since he's done so many things that betray the Dutchman or Davy Jones, that they kind of accelerated his melding with the ship, and now he's just kind of
in some big trouble at the end of the last movie.
In a way, he's kind of damned. So I would imagine that he's like, you are no longer a useful servant on the ship. I'm going to turn you into a zombie.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, Jones does have that power actually. So
So I mean that could be an explanation for that.
Also, we get that whole interaction with Norrington and how he we haven't touched on him at all so far, but he kind of goes through an entire change from the second one, trying to go back to his almost original character.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting to me. And I like the way they did it, but it was just sad that it had to go all the way through this.
Yeah. Well, by the time you saw that he was turning good, you're like, he's going to die. I just knew it.
It was very honorable, and I did feel like I felt something at that scene.
At least he got a kiss.
I don't know. You shouldn't have. You don't feel as much as you should, though, for his character set up in the first one.
I mean, I'm upset a little bit at the writing, but in this moment, I was invested. I was pretty emotionally impacted by his death.
Yeah.
How stupid do you think Sao Fang is to just believe right up front that Elizabeth is probably Calypso?
I know. I think that's dumb, but whatever.
Hey, he's a pirate, okay? He's not the
wishful
smartest
thinking.
man.
That was in my mind. I was like, oh, they're just trying to really progress this plot to where it needs to go, and this just has to happen right now.
Everything has been accelerated.
Yeah. This movie just needed more time.
Yeah.
But that stuff just seemed like a really quick solution, like the first idea in the script writing room to get Elizabeth to be a captain of her own, or one of the 9 of the 8, whatever the heck
9
that was.
pieces of 8.
Which I still don't know what that means exactly.
So,
so pieces of 8 are Spanish dollars, which coincidentally is where the word peso comes from, which means peace. But that's why South America and Mexico use peso as their currency. It's directly descended from pesos de ocho. But basically, the piece of 8 is a Spanish dollar that's signified, or they were basically totems that the council or the pirate lords brought to the council and use them in the ritual binding Calypso. And so they each of the 9 have their own piece of 8 that is part of that binding process. So they
that tracks then.
Yeah,
okay,
so
cool.
That's why they had to get physically everyone together so they could bring back those totems. And, in most cases, they weren't actually the pieces of 8. They were, symbolically pieces of 8 because they were poor, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense.
9 pieces of whatever we had lying around.
I found it amusing that Barbossa, being the genius he is, decides to use the wooden 9, give it to the least reliable member of his pirate crew to hold on to.
He's always alive. He's stuck around.
I guess. I just found it kind of funny.
So
but they did mention at the time that they were all poor and they just used what they could.
Whatever they had in their pockets. Yeah.
So, whatever, I go with it. It's fine.
No, I'm not mad because it was kind of humorous.
Yeah.
I did want to quickly touch on Norrington's death. I actually think this is a redemption for the character. They clearly didn't have time to devote much to his character in this movie, but they wanted to send him off right.
Yeah.
And I think they did the best they could. I liked him basically coming to terms with what he did wrong in the second movie and sacrificing himself to save the others. And honestly, it is the only time in this movie when Elizabeth kissed someone and I didn't cringe.
Me too.
Like, I was like, oh, that's like kind of sweet.
It was less of a romantic kiss and more of like a I'm gonna die kiss.
For me, it was more like Norrington. That's all he needed, and
Yeah.
he truly cares for and loves her.
Honestly,
at least along with.
I almost think he would have been a better match now.
I see. That's
than
where
Will in a
I
way.
actually agree.
Yeah.
Like I think that throughout this movie they completely dropped all chemistry between Will and Elizabeth,
Yeah.
and she has more chemistry with Chow Yun Fat than she did with Will.
Okay.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, that
Oh, you're
was an
being-
extreme statement. Obviously, meant to drive the point that like
Well-
they don't have chemistry,
You're supposed to see their
Like-
tension in the relationship. They're going through the trust issues.
but they don't resolve it.
I don't think I actually don't mind where that relationship ends up. I like it too. I just think the Norrington moment had more emotional impact
Yeah.
because he was literally sacrificing himself and all he ever wanted was her, I guess, or just to be
Well, it did make
Alright.
it seem like he was in love with her and that he accepted the fact that he was never going to have her and that she should be happy and that he's going to sacrifice, but he's going to, get that one kiss that he always wanted right before he died.
yeah.
I'm now off board Elizabeth and Will is just because there's that tension. First, she didn't tell him she killed Jack, and she just had a guilty conscience, so she went on this adventure to go get him back. And then he doesn't tell her that he's gonna betray the team to go save his father. But what annoys me is that it's such a one-sided relationship where you see Will is kind of he's still like pining after her, but she's more interested in the pirate life.
In this one I think Will is actually, and AJ already said it, but they're going through troubles and Will is going to his secondary mode, which is like, I'm going to save my dad. That's his
Yeah.
main motivation in this. I do not get the sense that he's pining after Elizabeth in this one.
No. He's not pining after Elizabeth. What I mean is, I know I said that, but it's not. It's more like the relationships they have an uneven care for each other, seemingly, in that like he loves her more than she seems to love him, and like. He's like, okay, well, she's not going to be truthful with me about this whole thing. Then I made this promise to save my dad.
Okay,
I'm going to save my dad.
I get that. I understand that. But and you're right. But I do think at the end, they're both just like, F it, we do love each other. And since this is like, seems like end times, they're both like, yeah, you're my end game. Like, this is like who I would ultimately want to end up with. So marry us. Like, it's like,
On the ship while we're battling.
yes, it's stupid, but it happens. We're
haven't-
spending
we
too
haven't
much
got
time
there
on
yet.
it. Yeah, we gotta speed it up.
Yeah.
The Black Pearl arrives at Shipwreck Cove, where Barbossa attempts to persuade the Brethren Court to release Calypso. Davy Jones visits Tia Dalma in the Pearl's brig, revealing she is Calypso. Jack's father, keeper of the pirate code, informs the court that only an elected pirate king can decide on going into battle. A vote is taken. In a twist, Jack casts his vote for Elizabeth, making her king. Elizabeth commands that the gathered pirate coalition attack Beckett's fleet head-on, rather than enduring a siege.
All right, let's be brief on this one, okay?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
be brief.
Okay, so I'll get my opinions out about this. I think I hated this the first time I watched all of this, the Elizabeth stuff,
Yeah.
because I was stupid and didn't really pay attention to the other moving parts of the scene. But it now does make sense because it's all part of Jack's plan to lure the pirates out to Beckett, and that's why he votes for Elizabeth. So I do believe in the reasoning behind wanting her to be captain, because she's a chess piece.
No, I'm actually going to agree with you somewhat. I actually don't mind her being made captain as much. I don't love.
Sorry, I mean king. Sorry.
King, pirate king, whatever. I actually don't mind this scene, except for a number of kind of cringy moments. The worst offender to me was Jack's supposed father.
Oh, I love Keith Richards in
No,
this.
okay,
Are you
so
kidding me?
here's the thing. I like Keith Richards. I like, that like you think on the surface, you're like, all right, Keith Richards, that's where Jack Sparrow or Johnny Depp modeled his character after. But then you get down to it, and now you realize that pretty much all of Jack's mannerisms he got from his father, because his father's kind of that exact,
Yeah,
just
that makes
kind of
sense.
weird. No, but the thing is, it takes away the mystery of Jack's character. Like, just because it
Kind of
makes
does
sense.
what a prequel does and ruins
Yeah.
a character.
It like ruins, like, oh, like he's supposed to have this mysterious past. Like, how did he get the way he got?
Well, they didn't actually explain that.
I think it's just doing something that this film continuously does, where you have a lot of serious, intense scenes, but then it throws in this weird kind of slapstick comedy to kind of get a laugh, I guess, because it knows
It's
that the
Tortuga
audience
scene.
loves.
Yeah.
No, it's not the Tortuga scene. Tortuga is more like resemblant of the ride, where you're just like, oh yeah,
well,
the Disney ride.
I was more
But
or less saying, like, they didn't have Tortuga in this movie,
They
therefore they needed that sort of atmosphere. That
I didn't get that feeling from this scene, but I guess if you
well,
did, I
later
can't
when they start
argue
fighting and like they're arguing, I got more of that vibe.
Anyway, I think this whole sequence that we just read is something that, in my mind, I didn't really care about at all. I don't have anything to nitpick because it's basically the same problem I've had that I've already mentioned throughout a lot of this film. So
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. I think having a pirate king is stupid, and there could have been another way to do that. So
I can agree. I didn't hate it altogether. I was just like, this is a means to an end, and they're trying to get there.
yeah, yeah.
Wouldn't it have been much cooler if Jack didn't have parents and he was raised by himself?
They picked
And this
this
is how it
literally
turned
the
out?
best person that could play his dad. Because
But they shouldn't have picked
It's
anyone.
just an Easter egg. I don't think it's significant.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it's
No,
significant
yeah,
either.
but the point is, it's not significant, but it is his father, and that's the representation.
Imagine
Like,
what this could have been. It could have been something terrible where Jack Sparrow's like, I have to find my father.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, yeah,
it's
I'm
like
glad
this
they didn't-
journey to go find it, and then it's like a dad and son movie. Like, no, this is just like, oh, of course Keith Richards is his father, because it's freaking Keith Richards.
But
it's like,
Well, I think
you
that-
could have depicted him in like a book, not
Mm-hmm.
him be a living weird person that's just like
Yeah.
Jack,
Okay,
but
he
older.
wasn't that weird, and they didn't show that many
He
mannerisms.
pulls out his dead mother's head from his coat.
I
So?
laughed.
What?
Oh, so is that the only thing? What else did he do?
That
What
is
else?
weird.
Oh, so Jack is the only one allowed to be weird in this movie.
I thought it was.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, AJ?
It kind of served a good purpose that, earlier in the first movie and the second movie a little bit, Jack did kind of stick to the code, and he had that kind of moral compass, so to speak, somewhere buried within him. And it's kind of neat to see where he got it from, because his dad is literally the keeper of the code. So I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of cool continuity, and I honestly don't think it's that big
Yeah.
of a deal who played him, and
Yeah.
he didn't get that
Yeah.
much
I
screen
agree.
time.
I
Yeah.
totally agree.
It's more the principle that I disagree with, less who plays him.
I think
it just soils the mystery of Jack Sparrow.
I
to
understand.
me.
I understand Noah's perspective. I'm not as disappointed about him as I have been with other similar encounters in other films and things like that. But I think it's mostly that Noah and I are huge into maintaining a certain mystery about characters, if that's kind of part of the riddle of their being. You don't want those riddles resolved. You want it kind of left open-ended, because that's the enjoyment of the character. So when you
Yeah.
start giving information, it somehow comes across as lesser than what you could have imagined them to be.
So my final stance on this is going to be, I don't feel like this is doing that. If you've seen Solo, A Star Wars Story, that does
Yeah.
that thing that you hate, where
Yeah.
it's like they inform you as to how Solo got his last name Solo, and it's the dumbest explanation ever that no one needs to know. I don't care why Han Solo's last name is
Han Solo.
Solo.
Well, it's because I'm alone.
And the fifth movie in this
that's cringe.
franchise also does that. It explains why Jack Sparrow's last name is Sparrow. And it's like, why?
Yeah, no,
Like,
that's worse.
The one thing no one
Also
asked for.
cringe.
I
Yeah.
think literally the only reason that they really have his father here is, like AJ said, as far as the code, his sticking to the code thing. And the other is that Johnny Depp literally used Keith Richards as an
Yeah.
example for his own portrayal of a pirate.
It's an Easter egg. As
It's
AJ
just
said.
it's Easter egg
just kind of
/ cameo.
throwing
Like,
out to the audience like, hey, here's Keith Richards.
I honestly never would have imagined that this would have even been a point of contention.
I know.
At all.
Anyway,
Like, it just seems so silly to me.
anyway,
Let's
we
carry
need to
on.
move on.
The Brethren, Court, and Beckett's fleet emerge for war. On a sandbank, Elizabeth, Jack, Barbossa, Beckett, Davy Jones, and Will parley, trading Will for Jack. Barbossa steals Jack's piece of 8, all of which are owned by the pirate lords and required to free Calypso. Barbossa frees Calypso, but she refuses to be held to any loyalty and summons an enormous maelstrom. The Pearl and the Dutchman battle in the massive vortex. Elizabeth and Will are wed by Barbossa in the middle of a battle. On board the Dutchman, Jones and Jack engage in a duel for control of Davy Jones' heart. Jones stabs Will, mortally wounding him. Jack gives up his chance for immortality and instead helps Will stab the heart, killing Jones, whose body falls into the maelstrom. Jack and Elizabeth escape the Dutchman as it is sucked into the sea.
woo!
All right.
Epic. Sorry.
A lot of stuff.
Where'd that one start again?
That one started where they're on the sandbank and they're kind of all meeting
Oh
up
yeah.
to discuss.
What do we think about the parlay scene?
I liked it.
Where they meet up on the sandbank or whatever.
Yeah, I
didn't
could be
mind
wrong. I could be wrong, but Keith Richards, I think, did the guitar solo there when they're meeting
that's
up
cool.
of the theme.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of neat.
It's kind of a standoff type
I did like
Western.
I did like that Davy Jones had a couple of buckets of water leading up to where he's like standing in a big bucket of water,
That's kind of funny.
not breaking the rules.
I think they did a good job of explaining to the audience a little bit more on kind of what happened throughout the whole thing. It seemed almost more like a small snippet of an exposition dump where they're just like, all right, this is what happened. This person did this.
Yeah.
This person did this. All right, make Jack on my side now, and we'll
Yeah.
trade.
Okay, so if Davy Jones can do that, why doesn't Will Turner just become master, like, architect of an island, have Elizabeth live there, and he could just park his boat, and, like...
He possibly could.
And Elizabeth can have a pool, and they can...
Actually, I bet Will would actually be a better, because he's not Davy Jones, but a shepherd of souls. I bet
he's
Will would
not there
actually do it.
regretfully, I think.
Yeah, well, the thing-
he might be, but...
Yeah, and you don't want him
he's
to turn
there.
into you don't want Will to turn into like a squid or something.
Yeah.
Because I think the Dutchman actually occupies the same limbo that we were talking about, and that's what the flash of green is. It's kind of just vanishing off into that mystical area where it shepherds souls. So yeah, that's why that can't work.
But yeah, I'll say I did really enjoy. Like to me, like there's a lot of ridiculousness in the Pirates series, and I can overlook that to an extent. I'll say I think they almost always pull it together at the end of these movies. Like I really enjoyed the whirlpool. I don't know. I don't care too much for Calypso, at least not the way that they set her up.
Yeah, so I want to ask y'all something. There's a time where, so Beckett has Davy Jones's heart, and that's why he controls Davy Jones. Mm-hmm. But, and this is earlier on in the movie, but he mentions to Jack Sparrow that he gave the heart back to Jones, or it's back on the Dutchman. Did y'all catch that?
Yeah.
What was stopping Davy Jones from just going about on his own at that point? Was it because Cutler had the key, or was it because then he gets the chest back, like they get back on the Dutchman, and Beckett takes back control of the Dutchman. Did y'all
Wait. Sorry, say again what I was kind of confused.
Well, when Jack Sparrow and Beckett are negotiating earlier on in the movie, Beckett says that the chest is back on the Dutchman, so that's not a
He
negotiating
probably has
chip.
his men there with it.
He does.
Yeah, he does.
Oh yeah,
He's
they
guarding
did
it.
have their guns pointed at it.
Yeah.
But there's a time later on when Cutler like jumps on the Dutchman and says, "The Dutchman's mine now," or "I'm the captain now," whatever.
I think that was when Norrington died.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. Not important. I just wanted to try and clear that up.
It's not really clear what possession means as far as
Yeah.
the heart goes. So
Yeah.
It's simple. Whoever has the heart has control.
Let's talk about the final, I guess, the battle in the Maelstrom.
And the Calypso sort of release.
Yes, Calypso and then the battle. So, Calypso, did y'all get like Ursula vibes?
Yeah.
Or it was just
Little
like, I think she actually drops an Ursula quote at one
yeah.
point. Which one? I forget.
Yeah, they
which
made a
one it
Little
was.
Mermaid reference in the first movie too.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
I didn't have a problem with it. I thought, so I liked that Calypso figures out that Davy Jones betrayed her because she didn't know that before. So I was
Yeah.
wondering how they were going to.
I thought that was cool of Will to like just
Use that.
like set her off like in that Hulk Incredible
Yeah,
Hulk
aim
movie,
her.
aim
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
But ultimately, she didn't really pick a side. She just kind of
Well, I think
like made it even.
I think her goal was like
Yeah.
she's going to swallow Davy Jones. Like
Yeah.
that's what she wants to do. Like that's her only motivation.
I was of the mind that maybe she like still loved Davy Jones, but because of that, she was willing to make it an even fight so that she didn't pick a side. So she was like, all right,
I think
let's just.
Yeah, I think she was literally, I am going to take complete possession of Davy Jones and he
That's
will
it.
he
Yeah.
will never hurt me again. Like
Yeah.
that's like what I took from that. But I don't know.
Hang him.
The effects in this movie are so good though, and the scale is amazing. Like this movie came out in 2007. It looks like it could have come out today.
So I was throughout this whole movie, I wasn't really a fan of it, but I do like that Maelstrom, and then I really like the scene where the two ships come out of the water,
Yes.
and they're like on either side of.
That's the next.
cannon.
That's the next.
Oh, I
yeah,
thought we
but
had covered that.
That's
We
the
did
last
read it.
paragraph.
Oh.
Yeah.
You did?
Did we?
The
I'm
Maelstrom
pretty sure
fight.
you did.
Yeah.
No, not the Maelstrom fight. After the Maelstrom
The
fight.
killing of
where-
the Endeavor.
I thought
Yeah.
it was all kind of included.
Or the destroy. No,
but-
that's the final paragraph, I think.
Yeah, I read the two scenes having to do with the Maelstrom, but I never got to that yet.
Well,
wanna-
in that case,
Should we
Go ahead,
just
Arena.
read through
Let's just-
all of it
let's
and
just
then
get through and
just
talk about
it.
because
I-
it's
I'm-
a whole mess.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can just finish it up. But
right.
I still have things to say about the whirlpool.
Yeah, I
Oh,
thought the
yeah.
Maelstrom fight was actually really cool. I mean, it might have been a little bit too long, but other than that, it was definitely the highlight of the movie. It was.
I wouldn't even say it was too long. I thought it was. I mean, I wanted more of it, to be honest.
Yes, and the final that final confrontation where you, I guess we can just finish it up.
Do you wanna
But
talk
I-
about
See,
it?
like I think it's like a whole final act. That's why.
Yeah.
All right. As Beckett's ship, the Endeavor, approaches to destroy the Pearl, the Dutchman rises from the sea, now captained by a resurrected Will. The crew has been freed from Jones's curse. Together, the two legendary pirate ships destroy the Endeavor. A stunned Beckett goes down with his ship while his navy retreats. With Will now forever bound to escort souls lost at sea to the next world, he and Elizabeth bid farewell to each other on the beach of an island. Will departs on the Dutchman, leaving Elizabeth with the chest containing his heart. Jack and Joshua Gibbs discover Barbossa has stolen the Black Pearl again, but Jack planned ahead and stole South Fang's navigational charts. He departs from Tortuga alone to track down the mythical Fountain of Youth. In a post-credit scene set 10 years later, Elizabeth and her son Henry watch from a sea cliff as Will returns aboard the Dutchman.
What?
Did you say something wrong?
No, I actually didn't even see that post-credit scene.
Oh
No,
yeah,
yeah.
there's a post-credit scene.
Yep.
Yeah, and she has a son.
Okay.
But
To which
Sorry.
made me think, wow, Will's got some potency.
he was confident. He's like, I got one chance.
I got one shot. Just like Jack.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
so,
got real command over his seamen.
I think this might be a guy thing, but I feel like through that whole Maelstrom fight, I kind of zoned out. The same way I zone out when there are car chase scenes.
I knew you were
And
going to
it's
reference
just-
fast.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things where for me, I guess it just doesn't really captivate me because I don't know. I'm just like, I guess I'll figure out who wins.
So no, you're right. It is a guy thing. It's like the testing of the mettle of
Yeah,
all these
yeah.
heroes, and guys like to see that fight.
Right,
it's like
right.
it's why a lot of guys
And
like
there's,
Dragon
like-
Ball Z and like stuff like that, where it's
So
like it's all about the
there's-
fight.
There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm not using that as a criticism. It's just that's not really that doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way a really emotional
So
talking
I-
scene.
So I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
say I think it is, even if you don't particularly enjoy that, I think it is necessary to build up to that final moment.
Yeah.
And it's all about and it's all worth it if that moment hits.
Yeah.
The thing, and so maybe that moment didn't hit for you when the heart is stabbed
Yeah.
or when Will is stabbed.
For me, this Will being stabbed kind of made sense. I don't know. There's just a whole jumble of things that happen on the ship at once where I'm just kind of like, oh, I guess that's happening now. Cool.
Yeah.
You don't get a whole lot of time to mourn anybody. You're like, that's sad, but we're moving on to the next thing now.
Yeah.
So there isn't a lot of time used to really feel a moment. So I kind of just zone out to figure out
We had
what's
the wedding
going on.
scene.
Blech.
So
Anyway.
that I actually like 75% of the fight. I'm gonna agree with you. There's 25% there, but I love those scenes where you're on one ship and you see the other at
Yeah.
the opposite side of a whirlpool, just
Yeah.
swirling around. Like
Yeah.
the
I think
imagery of it is just so insane.
Yeah.
You don't see action sequences this, I don't know,
Monumental.
crazy like in too many other films. It's
I
Yeah.
did read a little bit of stuff on the making of, and I think they said it took 10 weeks, I think, or was it? It took them a long time to do just the rain scenes. They said they were over 2 months of just being in nothing but rain, like torrential downpour.
yeah, apparently no CGI rain. It was all
Yeah.
real.
I saw
I
the
think
wind
that-
turbine things they had. Yeah.
And they
I
had to
think
do
it
it in very
does
cold
make
temperatures
sense.
too, because it prevented because they were soaking wet, so they wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that there was no bacteria intrusion, stuff like that.
So that I think in its benefit, I do think that it makes sense to have something that grand, especially if you're throwing a goddess into the mix. Like there has to be something big that happens because she's being released. But I think my biggest problem with this is they kind of unleash their Titan. It's kind of funny. She's the daughter of a Titan, but right then. And then there's still more to come after it. I feel like they kind of let go of too much too fast. And then that sequence is just suddenly over. So
Yeah.
I guess she's gone and Davy Jones is gone.
Yeah.
And so now we have Beckett, who in my mind, it is a cool death, but at the same time, it's just this has been set as the overarching villain for so long. And now that the Dutchman's gone, he's just kind of like, oh, I guess I'm dead now. Like, I don't know. I understand that he has this Napoleon complex. He's not as great as he talks himself up to be, but you're kind of left wanting because there isn't really a satisfying moment or encounter with him that makes you feel like his death was justified.
Maybe I was just so sick of seeing him alive that
Yeah.
it was satisfying for me to see him just get blown up in the extravagant way that they I thought it was
Imagine if they had
the-
saved that for later, after
Yeah.
building him up even more.
Well, the thing that I have always been wanting since the second film was I felt that Beckett and Elizabeth needed to be pitted against one another, where it was her outsmarting him. Like, he should be this, kind of more cerebral villain, whereas Davy Jones is a physical horror villain.
Yeah.
And so I felt like, her wits could be matched against his so that she outsmarts him in some way. And since he killed her father, that gives her more motive for him to be her, arch enemy, basically.
Yeah. I will say also that I kind of liked seeing Beckett's face when he realized that he was going to die there. He kind of looked like a kid wetting his pants.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I don't know what to do because I've
Yeah.
been foiled.
But the thing
And
is,
it was satisfying for
that
me.
the thing is, it's satisfying if that took place in the second film, because he was at the peak of annoyance for me in the second film. In the
Yeah.
third one, he's just, oh, I'm in control of Davy Jones now, and now Davy Jones is basically a kicked dog in the corner who's
Yeah.
not really effective. He's just kind of a pawn for Beckett, who's a little lordling, and you don't really know why he has so much power to begin with. And so then in the third one,
Business.
he's set up in most storylines to be the main villain because Davy Jones has basically lost his steam. So you're thinking, oh, Beckett, he's the one to look out for. And you keep waiting for that sinister moment where, oh, he really is the big villain, but you don't get it. So now Davy Jones is gone, and then there's Beckett, and he's just blown up.
Well, I think
his own shit.
your sinister moment happens, but it's just placed earlier in the movie where it needed to be later, which is the killing of Elizabeth Swann's father, or just having him killed. That, for me, like, kind of upped him a little bit as, like, oh, this guy literally does not care about human life whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
He's just playing the numbers game, and that's it.
But to add to what Irina said, I feel like he loses his composure too soon once he sees that he's facing off against the two ships.
Yeah.
I'll say I really love the scene of him walking down the stairs on the boat as the fire is going on behind him.
Visually,
but
cool.
You look at his ship, he's got about like 100 cannons on either side.
Okay, I'm just going to say that's not the point. I see where you're coming from, but he's not a captain. He is not the kind of person that has the weight to manage that situation. He is bad at that.
Why? Why is he bad at that?
Because he plays the pawn game. He doesn't lead a ship.
He's perfectly smart enough to know, hey, fire those cannons.
No, he's a little wuss.
The
He's
thing
a
is,
little baby.
even if he is good at that, I don't think he was ready for a fight. He saw the Dutchman come out of the water and he was like, oh, cool, that's still on my side, and we're good. It's when they turn and it's already too late.
My point is less about that. I want that moment where he does lose his composure because that's satisfying. However, his ship is perfectly capable. I would have liked it better if, I don't know, some outlying factor put him at a slight disposition in that moment where it's like, now I can't react to this the same way I normally would. And then he's like, oh, that guy's on my side. I'll be fine. And then he realizes, wait, he's not. And it's like he's just trapped there like a fish in a barrel.
What he did?
I like it how they did it, actually. I think it's perfect. I know you have your opinion. But I like the idea of him feeling like he is on top of the world and everything is going his way, to be it completely flipped on its head to where it's like, oh, actually, I'm literally at the bottom.
Yeah, but
like, all in that moment.
Yeah, you could still have that moment, though. But what I'm saying is that he's got a whole armada behind him. He's got the reason he loses his composure right here is because he's like, oh, there are two ships against me instead of one.
Two
It's
ships
just
that are
like
both...
The two best ships in the ocean.
Yeah, literally
okay.
the best.
Okay, yeah, I realize that, but at the same time...
That are
he's
literally
got a-
magical.
And they're also on either side of you. I think you're right. He had enough cannons to do something.
Yeah.
But Jones's ship's is not going down.
Well,
And the Black Pearl maybe.
Okay,
but
yeah,
even
yeah.
then,
Well,
there's nowhere to go
The Black
from
Pearl,
there.
by the way, is like Wolverine. Somehow it like gets hammered and hammered with shots, but then it's like repaired the next
I'm
scene.
back.
Like,
I
what?
like it.
Yeah.
It is magical in a way.
So anyway, I think we glossed over it, and we're going to close this out pretty soon. But we briefly said it. But the killing or the stabbing of Will Turner and the carving out of his heart and all that.
I'm a fan.
That was a great scene.
Yeah,
I
I'm a
thought-
big fan of that.
I just wanted to give it a little more love before we moved on.
That was the nice Jack Sparrow touch.
Yeah.
There, of him debating with himself as usual.
Yeah,
good
it's the
or
first
evil.
time you see him just
Yeah.
like completely like kind of stunned
Selfless.
and not really knowing what to do because he's got the heart in hand and he's like, how do I
Like,
how do
I could
fix
have
this?
immortal life myself.
And they built
or
it
I
up
can
that
save
he
Will.
wanted it too.
Yeah.
Like, he wanted that immortal life.
Yeah. So I did really like that touch. That's why I said the end captures me. The rest of it, not so much.
And seeing Davy Jones kind of plummet into the center of the maelstrom is a cool visual. I think he's defeated. Finally, like he's lost his life, which he.
Yep. And then they have their moment on the beach of an island, I guess, where they're saying their last goodbyes for the next 10 years.
Yeah, it was the most like sexy scene in the movie, where it's like, here's
Will's got
Elizabeth's
a
leg.
fetish.
Is
That was-
Tarantino filming that part?
I couldn't. I wanted to cringe, but I never quite got there. It was like, oh, this is like, I don't know if this feels right, but what I'm gonna go.
To
with
me,
it.
I didn't cringe at it because it's like, all right, you know what? They're husband and wife. That stuff happens, but watching it with other people, I'm like, okay.
I think the cringe mostly comes from you not ever seeing anything like that between them throughout the entire
Ever.
series.
Yeah.
You only see the kind of, star-crossed lovers, we never actually got to be together kind of a shtick where they're misunderstanding one another, but you don't actually see any of that sensual side, I guess. Like, it
That
doesn't
was the
have
first.
to...
They finally get
Yeah.
it.
No,
Yeah.
the thing is, like, you just don't see that. So to suddenly see this incredible familiarity that they have is kind of stunning because you weren't warmed up
Yeah,
to that.
that's it. That goes hand in hand with the fact that they just, to me, didn't have any chemistry in this movie.
I don't think it was no chemistry. But it was less. It was like
Well, because
It
they
was
didn't
just that
focus on
they
it at
didn't
all.
get
I
enough
know.
screen time for that to
exactly.
develop.
But
Yeah.
but it's also just the fact that they didn't really resolve their differences.
yeah, it's a bold choice to end this movie on kind of like not a completely optimistic note. It's kind of
You
melancholy
mean with
Yeah.
in regards to them.
Yeah.
yeah, they're.
him having to go off on his
That's
journey?
like kind of a cool ending to
Yeah.
like, oh, he's captain
I
of the
do-
Dutchman now.
I
and he
like that, yeah.
Only can he come to land every 10 years. Like it's.
Yeah.
I agree. It's just like I just don't. I wish that they had. It's weird. Again, I'm gonna say like I wish they had another movie, but like there's just so much story in here that they started off that they could have developed an entirely different story and gone
So-
a different route with it. Had it could have been like a Princess Bride type
I have a question.
romance. You know.
So if he's aboard the Flying Dutchman, and she's still, to my knowledge, a pirate captain, right?
Pirate King.
The king.
Can't he just come aboard her ship whenever he wants?
Yeah.
Well, she's got a kid.
Yeah, she's land based now.
No, she's not.
Well, I mean,
She has a well.
No,
why
that does
doesn't
raise
why
a good
doesn't
question.
she's a captain? So why
Yeah.
doesn't she just go on
Okay.
a ship and like maybe
I got the
they
impression-
can't be intimate, but can't they just like at least meet each other? Still?
yeah, I don't know. That's
Every
not
now and again, but he's got a job now.
I mean, he
he's
ferries-
got a job now.
Yeah, he's
He
got a
ferries
He's an upstanding
souls. Yeah,
citizen.
like the thing is, he shepherds souls, but he has to remain in the water.
Yeah.
But now that she's a captain and has renown,
Oh, man.
she can stay in the water.
Can you imagine if she died and
Dude.
like he's just like shepherding souls? He's like, wait, Elizabeth?
Okay, also,
Yeah, that would be
she
weird.
could actually, like, if she wanted to, she could go along with him. There's nowhere that it says that he has to go underwater
No,
with this
the
ship.
thing is that she's not undead. He's basically undead right now,
Yeah.
but still fertile, I guess. But,
But
I don't
remember
know.
that there's that whole period where Will's on the Flying Dutchman doing his thing, and he's not dead at that point. He's just with him. So, like, and not only that, it's proven whenever she goes to
Yeah.
the world's end that she can go to that in-between state as well and live.
See,
so,
like, there's this whole continuity issue that they've had for a while that it's you just kind of just deal with it.
You think it's
no,
bad
Will's
in
like,
this
nah,
one?
I'll see you in 10 years.
You think it's bad in this one? Wait till 5.
Yeah.
I think you can kind of like turn your brain into a pretzel and make sense of certain things in this movie. There are literally rules broken in 5 that do not make sense. This one you can kind of like, I can
I can wrap my brain around it a little
if I like
bit.
squint my eyes and blur my vision, it kind of makes sense. But
5, you're like, what movie is this?
yeah,
Well,
yeah, exactly.
It's yeah.
No, 5 breaks literal rules of storytelling and just
Well, it's more like guidelines anyway.
yeah.
But yeah, seriously, that's how they took it.
All right. Any last words on the story before we head into our break?
Nope, I think we're good so far.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and on the other end, we're going to give our brief reviews and then talk about this franchise. Welcome back, me mateys. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
We'll see which one I go with.
I think one of the I just want to say one of the scenes in this movie that I always remembered was just Barbossa, steering the ship and just going ha 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 ha.
I love
That's
it.
like
Oh,
that
love it.
image is in
I
my
love it.
head
I
for
love
this
it. I
one.
love it. Anyway, we're here to review the film that we just reviewed.
Hey,
Basically, it felt like a review because we were
Yeah.
so like...
We
Well,
critiqued.
it was a review.
Yeah.
We're going to give a score.
Yeah, so we're going to give our brief scores, which are randomized on little slips of paper that David has in a nice little bowl.
Nifty.
And then after that, we are going to talk about this franchise, how successful this film was, and whether or not it affected future installments or not.
All right. Also, I'm just going to say, I think it's so overkill that I chose this giant popcorn bowl for like 5 tiny slips of paper.
Yeah.
Just like looking at it.
We do everything here big
Maybe,
in Texas. All right, David,
to pull
pull,
'em out.
our first review.
All right. First one. AJ with a 7.
Wow.
Yeah, so I actually didn't hate this movie as much as I expected to. I didn't really pipe in too much, but I do disagree with a lot of the criticism of this, at least as far as the importance of those criticisms overall. This movie definitely has issues, but I do like this movie better than the second one, actually. I didn't find the plot overly convoluted. I just think that there is a lot of extraneous material in this movie, but I did appreciate the paring down of some of the goofiness that was in the second one. I think they probably went a little bit heavy-handed on some stuff, like Davy Jones definitely lacked a certain menace about him that was definitely more present in the first, or excuse me, the
Yeah,
second.
he was
movie.
muted.
But I think really there was some good substance in this, and there was some good dialogue and thematic, like aesthetically, some amazing shots, like we talked about earlier. The music is amazing. I just really wish that, especially for the runtime of this movie, I feel like they could have pared down more. And I think that if they were clever enough, and I think it's entirely possible that they could have combined the second and the third movies, like say start this movie with the Kraken scene, the Kraken fight, and they're jumped right in the middle of it and taking on Davy Jones. We see Davy Jones at the height, and then we kind of come around and then have the Calypso storyline underneath and pruning out some of the Sao Fang stuff. I feel like he was somewhat extraneous.
To chime in on that, I think it would have been cool to have seen the scene of Beckett taking control of Davy Jones's heart and telling Davy Jones that he had to kill his Kraken.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to.
You
I
wanted
kind of
to
wanted to
see
see
that,
that.
yeah.
Like.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, there is as much material as there is in this. I just feel like there's some good content, good substance, good potential. It just wasn't massaged and polished well enough to yield an amazing movie, even though there's definitely the potential for it. And I feel like with the second movie, if we have a cake, we have got a plate of icing or frosting, just all the glitz and kind of fun entertainment out of it on the second movie. And then this movie, we got the unfrosted cake. I wish there was a way to combine those so that we got, at least this movie feels like it can stand alone. Not amazingly well, but there's some resolution to it. But I
It's
just feel
a
like
3-pegged table versus 2.
and it's just there's definitely a good movie in this. It just needed to be worked better. Maybe like if we said they had more time to devote to it and editing it to really find the heart of it and focus on that instead of just, I don't know. They did do a good job of paring down the goofiness, the slapstick from the second, which I really appreciate. So I do think it's a good return to form, kind of closer to the tone of the first movie. I do like the characters in this. I like Jack Sparrow. I did like a diminished Will and Elizabeth, their goofiness, their goofy romanticism. Like, I'm glad they simplified it. It is superficial, but that's kind of how it started. And, you know, within the context of their relationship and now their positions where they're at now, it kind of fits. So I do appreciate that it wasn't just kind of a scattered mess of what I feel the second one was. So
Yeah.
All right.
Next score. Reese, also a 7.
Yeah, so I know it sounds weird, like this one scoring slightly lower than the second one, whereas this one feels more substantial and more meaningful, but I think this is like the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Like it really does some things amazingly well, but then I think it also just totally fumbles the ball in trying to just make sense of the plot. Whereas all the second had to do was like run in one direction. It doesn't really tell a story, but it's like a constant diversion of entertainment, I guess. Whereas this one's trying to, I feel like it's more trying to get you to think about how and why everything's happening, and a lot of it just doesn't sink. So that's why for me it's like slightly lower than the second, but I really do like put these basically on the same level, but for much different reasons. At World's End has much more purpose and reason to exist. And actually, weirdly, part of it failing is the second one not doing its job and setting up a lot of the plot points that this one runs with.
I agree.
So yeah, in a weird way, the second one is successful, but also just used as a weapon against the finale in a weird way. So yeah, it almost makes me think less of the second one in retrospect, but I can't deny the fun I had with it.
Yeah.
It just could have really set up these dramatic threads better because you're just kind of dropped into this new world. Like, oh, what the heck is going on? Like the eight pieces of nine, the Brethren Court that we had heard nothing about in the second one that they could have easily like set up or done some line drop about. So yeah, this one's I do really admire the ambition, though, of this movie. There's so many things you wouldn't see in your typical blockbuster, so many interesting visuals, and we don't give enough credit to director Gore Verbinski, who kind of like shepherds all of these really eccentric and imaginative set pieces and brings them to life. So I think visually this one's higher than any of the previous ones, story-wise weak, but because of the failings of its predecessor. So I can't hate on it too much. I have fun with this movie, and it's got tons of warts, but I still give it a slight pass. So yeah, 7.
I do agree with you, and I had that thought myself. For the failings of the second one, really kind of constrained and unnecessarily burdened the third one to kind of resolve those. So
it forced it down a path. All right, next score. Noah with a 3.5.
Ugh.
You really didn't like this one.
That's sad.
I'm going to keep that, but I said everything that I believe in the rest of the thing.
You don't want to say anything else?
I just think it's a mishmash.
Okay, so with the
3.5,
second
really?
movie, you originally rated that around the same level, and then you bumped it up. Because I guess you were comparing it to other movies that you thought were worse.
Yes.
But you're still kind of applying that same treatment to this one with the 3.5.
Yeah, so so I know the second one had flaws, and I didn't like that one as much either. I think I ended up giving that one, what was it, a 5?
A 6.
6.
A 6. Well, to begin with, I gave it a 5, and that bumped it up to a 6. But to me, this one was even more of a betrayal of the characters that had been established in the first one, because I'm not just comparing this one, the third one, to the second one. I'm comparing it to the first one again and just saying, like, how did we get from here to here? And to me, it's just kind of a tragedy of the series. And, like, admittedly, the end is really fun, and there are fun elements of it, but I think it kind of changed its colors as it went to cater to a certain audience. But
So I'm going to respect your score.
you can debate me on it.
I'm also going to throw a little shade, though.
You can throw shade if you want.
No,
That's
it's actually
although
not-
by definition, throwing shade is not respecting.
It's
my
not
score.
exactly shade. It's more just like, I understand that this movie is deeply flawed in certain ways, but for me, it takes some big swings. Like it's like putting everything on the table and just putting a full budget behind all of it. Just that.
Well, big swings meaning they threw a lot of money at it.
No, like the ideas. I mean, the ideas. It's like there's nothing that you could call generic about this movie, really.
I don't. Well, actually,
You think
I
it's
would
generic?
Say, not the move, not the theme of it, but more the kind of gimmicky humor, which, admittedly, they toned down from the second, but it's still prevalent in a number
I think
of
3.5
scenes.
is criminal to give this movie.
You can think what you want. I'm gonna stick with my score.
All right,
All right,
that's fine.
Next score. David with an 8. All right. We're gonna go ahead and swing from that 3.5 all the way to an 8, and that is because I disagree with all of that. I think that this does a better job of going back to form to the first movie. I think that the characters are aligning more to their original characters. I'm not as bothered by mysteries being, opened up. I like the way they develop their characters, and the fact that they had a way to take such a small amount of time in a script this intense after they did kind of have issues with the first one or the second movie, and then trying to put it all together in a finale. And watching all the behind the scenes and seeing what went into the making of this and how passionate everyone was, it really shows that they did. It wasn't just a paycheck. This wasn't just like a gimmicky movie. This was somebody's work. Like, this is somebody's heart, like, put into a movie, and they were trying their best to resolve it. And I remember liking it the first time. I do get slightly confused at points, but overall, this is just a popcorn movie. This isn't supposed to be, the next, I don't know, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It's a fun movie, and
it's supposed to be the next Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, and they did a good job with that. And I think that in the end, I think they could have had things that could have been done better, but a lot of that is just the writing that they didn't have the time to do. If they had the time, like Reese was saying, I think this could have been just as good, if not better, than the first one. Well, I think we have one more score to get to, and with Irina, we have a 6.
Yep.
Okay.
So the person that rates movies in general a little higher rated lower than you two.
It's not always
So?
consistent.
Yeah, it's fair.
So the reason I'm giving this a 6 is I do agree with you guys. The second didn't give this a good setup, and that's part of why it's just so negative in my mind. But I remember going to theaters and, giving the Pirates franchise another chance, and this felt like it just gave me the impression that they were kind of trying to balance themselves on a unicycle and steer everything back in the direction of
Spin
the crowd's
plates all at
favor.
the same time.
Yeah, so they got it perfect the first time. They tried a second film. Nobody liked it. Well, I mean, that's kind of a generalization, David.
Well, you gave it the highest score.
I know. But the thing is, a lot of people were disappointed with some choices made in the second, and then the third sort of tried to steer it back in the direction of the first to the point where
like a
you
ship.
just don't you don't feel like there really was any good planning at all.
I can agree with that.
I do think that it did finish everything it started, which is good. And I feel like the 6 I gave it is mostly to the credit of the production team. They put a whole lot of work into it. I love the settings. I love the detail, the costuming. There's a lot of detail in there. But the writing, and this is probably because they didn't have enough time to do it, was just not good.
It was definitely, the main flaw, you're right, is the writing.
And
the script kind of falls apart at multiple times.
I feel like they, if they really wanted this to be kind of a bookend, they should have swapped stick with one villain to one story, I feel like Beckett could have been a formidable second film villain because it makes sense to jump to that next step. Whereas, they kind of aided pirates. Then there would be this guy that comes along saying, hey, I need to hang those guys because they helped pirates. But if you were to have a little twist at the end, like the Flying Dutchman is supposed to be a moniker for, it's an ill omen, basically.
Yeah.
So if you kept that mystery with it, the way you kept the mystery with the Black Pearl, and perhaps there's a plot twist where you discover Beckett isn't actually working for the king. He's kind of defected and on his own terms. So that gives them the option to, fight back. But then, I don't know, if there was an end to Beckett in the second one, with a little glimmer of seeing another ship off in the distance, kind of like the Dutchman usually does, they just see it in the midst of a hurricane in folklore. And then leave Davy Jones as the final act in the third, where Will discovers his father, and, there's a whole other storyline there. I feel like I would have been more satisfied with this.
They kind of bit off more than they could chew.
This is our how acceptant each of us are. This is kind of like this. This is how we judge. How acceptant are we of a obviously flawed script or
Yeah.
setup. Like, does that really hit you to the core like it does Noah?
Yeah.
Or is it like, as long as everything else is done well, I still enjoy it, like David and me and AJ. Kind of
It
interesting.
shows the way we all handle the grading rubric a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, I feel like things that don't really hit me well are if a whole lot of basically just computer graphics are thrown at my face. Like, it can look cool, but it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of substance behind it, so I get lost very easily from that. I'm much more interested in good dialogue and, you know, just unique themes.
Yeah.
They definitely could have just had Davy Jones be 2 and 3, completely ignore Beckett except plant the, you know, trading company.
He could have even
Thing.
had 7 films.
Yeah. Well,
Don't
they
you think-
are anyways.
Don't you
but-
think the Davy Jones tentacle killing scene should up your points to 4 out of 10?
No, I do like that scene, but
I'm just joking. I'm just like, no, please, save it.
no. The thing is, like, I'm not faulting the actors or the CG or anything. I think I'm just more faulting the studio at this point for rushing it and it being a mess.
Yeah, I don't think there's any
but-
reason why it needed to be rushed in this
Well,
way.
it was
this is-
shot back to back with the second, right? So I don't know what the timeline,
Yeah.
as far as rushing things go, it is kind of, production of it was tied to the second one.
Yeah.
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 And they were kind of, this is honestly probably Peter Jackson's fault because he's a magician and somehow managed to film 3 movies back to back
Yeah.
when no human is actually capable of doing that.
Dude, it all
So-
comes back
Unless
to
you're
Lord of the
Peter
Rings
Jackson.
And after
at some point.
yeah, the immediate fallout of that was
Yeah.
that the Matrix tried to do back to back and
Nope.
Pirates did back to back because they're
Nope,
like, oh,
nope,
we can
nope.
cut costs and
If Lord of the Rings could do it,
Well,
Yeah.
Peter Jackson originally wanted to do 2, and then New Line convinced him to do 3. So, but yeah,
still
nevertheless,
made it
you're
work.
right. It's definitely set a high bar.
Yeah.
Back to what I was gonna say though, I actually think that they should have just kept the Davy Jones story for the first or for the second 2 movies, so like 2 and 3, and just completely omit Beckett.
no, I think Beckett needs to be in there.
well, so Irina says Beckett is second movie, Davy Jones 3, and you think Davy Jones for 2 and
So here's my thought process.
Which is what they
my first thought was what Irina was thinking, but then I was thinking, well, to eliminate all the like this convoluted story, it would be a lot easier for them to tackle one problem at a time. Because what they have is a blend of different themes in this in the latter 2 movies, and it kind of shows in the mix of plots a little bit.
here-
And I think it would have been easier for them to like
Yeah.
chew if they covered the Davy Jones story and then had the separate kind of pirate uprising type story in
So no Beckett.
a separate thing. But you can still have Beckett, but just connected to that pirate uprising storyline.
Which
He doesn't
is what
have to
they
be.
did with this.
Yeah, I know.
I
but-
agree. You could
but,
take him out
like-
and take that direction for sure. And I do agree
Yeah.
with Reese that a simple fix would be showing Beckett taking dominance over Davy Jones by having him kill the Kraken. Show that so that
Yeah.
when suddenly Davy Jones is just a lapdog, we get that continuity, that transition,
Yeah.
instead of, Davy Jones in the second one, Davy Jones in the third one are completely different.
we need a 3.5 hour movie.
So, all right, well, let's. Anyone else have final thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good.
Yeah.
So let's move on to
Hashtag
critics.
Make Pirates great again.
Yeah, actually, AJ, do you have the numbers crunched for us on
Yeah.
those scores?
So, average on our group, we have a 6.3, which is tied for 15th place with 28
weeks later.
Yeah, and Neverending Story, the first one. So, kind of just under half of the pack here.
Okay,
This is
Halfway.
criminal.
okay, David. Think about it this way. This is 1 point, like just 1 whole point under the second Pirates.
It's a tenth of the point
Which-
above Voyage
this
of the
is-
Dawn Treader.
Basically,
Yeah.
Noah said, Pirates of the Caribbean, get down on your knees, and then he executed him.
No.
Executed
See, the
him.
thing is, this in 28 weeks later
Okay.
on the same.
Okay, so here's the thing. I actually can y'all even though you're comparing this with 28 weeks later, Like disregard the other movies. I actually think 6.3 is good for this movie.
Yeah, compared to your 3.5.
No, yeah, yes, but
I honestly imagine if you gave it a 6.
no,
like
no,
I
okay,
wrote down.
honestly-
can you imagine this
Noah.
movie being a 7?
No, honestly,
Yes, I can.
Okay, what?
No,
Andrew, do
no,
you mind,
when you
AJ,
hear-
I'm sorry. Hold on, AJ. Do you mind letting us know some of the 7, like the movies that we've rated a 7?
Well, so I think a better bookend for reference is this is below John Carter and above Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I think that's a good placement.
I no, and I was gonna say no. It actually when you hear the critics' scores, it's more in keeping with that. I think our score fell like around where critics thought this movie was ultimately.
Yeah.
You were on the low end of critics, though, believe it or not, with your score.
That's fine. They just had the hype in their hearts.
No, I don't think they did. Critics have been out to
All right,
kill.
I won't say anything.
No, seriously, critics have been out to
kill.
kill Pirates of the Caribbean from the very start.
Like,
They
even
eat
the
this
first
stuff
movie.
up.
No,
Yeah.
not the first movie.
No, the critics
They did.
wanted to hate it.
What?
Yeah,
They didn't want it
they
really
went
made,
in
even in
wanting to
production.
hate it.
Yeah, they had their knives out for this one.
I don't know. I thought Pirates 1 was rated pretty.
Yeah, it was
well.
a
No, it
surprise.
what they thought
was.
about
No,
this
it was.
Well,
Yeah. So Rotten Tomatoes, 44% from critics with an audience score of 72%. Metacritic had a 50 out of 100 from critics and a audience score of 6.3 out of 10. And IMDb had an audience score, it's just audience scores, but 7.1. So mixed to, actually, let's just say it's mostly mixed reviews
Yeah.
overall.
well,
It's
for
mixed
audiences,
reviews, but-
it's positive, but it's
Well-
critics is negative.
Yeah,
So it's-
audience is mildly positive. Go ahead.
No,
Erin.
I was just gonna say mixed, but I would say probably more on the positive side. That's
Yeah,
all.
very slightly.
Yeah.
And I want to say today, I've just been going through the internets. There are a lot of defenders of this third movie.
Yeah.
Like, you'd be
Yeah,
surprised.
I've
a lot
seen
of
that.
people who think that it is criminally underrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's criminally underrated. I think it is slightly underrated.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a great movie. It's got very many flaws.
There are definitely
yeah.
gems of scenes in this movie that are just kind of lost in the wash of the extraneous
Yeah.
material.
Yeah, and
I
I
would
honestly
agree with
think it's
that.
this movie's sequels that emphasize how much better this one was.
It does.
Yeah.
But anyway, box office. All right, guys, this movie at the time was the most expensive movie ever made at $300 million. It cost more than the 3 Lord of the Rings movies combined.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of that probably went to Johnny
Dang,
Depp. Let's be
dude.
real. But
That's
honestly,
insane.
I don't think it's as epic or as amazing as Lord of the Rings, but this movie looks like it cost a lot of money.
It
Like when
does.
you look
Yeah.
at it's not like they left money on the table and it was like unfinished.
They're like, screwed. If we're doing it, we're going big.
But so how do y'all feel this movie did box office wise? For context, Dead Man's Chest was the first one to go into $1 billion with 1.06 billion, somewhere around there. I don't have it in front of me, but it's like almost 1.1
20
billion.
millions.
How do y'all think this movie did? Let's start with Noah.
Released in
right,
May
so
of 2007.
2007.
So you
yes.
said the budget was 300 million?
300 million. Yes.
I bet you it made a 1.1 billion.
Same as Dead Man's Chest.
Ooh, maybe a little less.
Okay. Well, give me your final answer.
I'll still say 1 billion then.
Okay. 1 billion.
I'm going to go with 1.2 billion.
1 point more than Dead Man's Chest.
Yeah.
Okay. AJ.
Noah stole mine, but I guess we'll do the routine of going high and low on Noah.
Hey,
So,
that's
I guess
not cool.
900.
900 million.
Yeah.
Okay, Arena.
950 million.
You people.
Hey, this is a first. Irina is our winner.
Go! Dude,
The movie.
so that means AJ and I combined to make the right score.
Yeah, so
Sandwiched
we
the
had
score.
a movie made 961 million.
Okay.
US was a significant step down from the previous, but overseas made up for it a lot. Almost cracked $1 billion. So still a very, very, very successful movie. The third highest of the franchise, beat the first movie. I won't reveal anything else. So
It's still like the
Yeah.
fifth most expensive movie ever made, or something like that, adjusted for inflation.
yeah, it's still very high up there. Remarkably, the next one is one of the most expensive movies ever made. The fourth one.
Are you kidding?
And when you watch that, you won't understand why. Like,
When you watch that, you won't understand.
It's
why.
gonna. I bet it goes towards a
statement
lot of the
just-
actors.
but not to reveal my hand. I actually haven't rewatched that movie in forever.
I only
so,
saw it in theaters.
yeah, so who knows how I'll feel about it, but I just don't remember being wowed by it from a visual standpoint like I was the previous
I
ones.
actually don't remember what happens.
Oh,
I
hadn't seen it.
unfortunately remember.
I actually haven't seen this one.
Okay,
so-
but just to show you how much critics just didn't like the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, this movie was nominated for 2 Oscars, lost both of them. One was in costuming, and the second was visual effects. It lost its visual effects Oscar to The Golden Compass.
Are you kidding?
Ew.
Yes, the CGI polar bear movie.
That nobody remembers.
And I have seen scenes from that recently. It does not hold up like this movie does.
They just didn't wanna
It does
give
not
it-
look nearly as good.
Oh, well.
The third movie in Pirates doesn't deserve to have an Oscar.
So yeah, this is the
So that's like the one place where like they do the absolute best out of almost anything I've ever seen.
Visual effects.
Visual effects.
Yeah.
That's like the one main thing that I can actually praise for this movie.
I just have a
Yeah,
soft
so
spot in my hearts for maelstroms. Even the word alone is just
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
wasn't that
like
one of
the
your like
word
usernames
maelstrom.
at one point or something?
yeah. So I guess don't dox me.
So yeah, this was the conclusion of the trilogy. So the sequel did not come out for another 4 years. So people got to rest on this franchise for a little while, which I'm actually glad. I'm glad they didn't pump one out really quickly. I mean, 4 years is still not a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, they let this one rest for a little while. Definitely, in my opinion, did not affect this franchise in a negative way. The only thing I could see affecting it is maybe the negative reviews. I don't know what they were expecting, if they were expecting higher or not. But yeah, I think it just became one of these franchises where they were like, the reviews don't matter. It's gonna make money. It's Pirates of the Caribbean. It's too big.
Well,
of a
the
brand,
audience
so-
obviously showed that they like this franchise.
There's also
I guess the runtime was a big criticism too, because it is a longer movie than I realized when I first got into it.
Yes.
it's almost 3 hours. Isn't
That
it?
actually-
it's like
that-
2 hours 40,
That's to its credit.
Yeah,
then.
249 or something like that.
249.
Yeah, almost 3 hours. But that's another impressive thing to say because it made a good amount of money, and with less screenings in theaters because of its length. People showed up for this one. So
Regarding scores, if I could completely disconnect this from the first Pirates,
which you can't.
huh?
Which you can't.
Exactly. Which sadly I can't. I might have more of a soft spot in my heart for it, and I would be willing to forgive some of the issues I have with it a little more.
Yeah, it's nice that we got the diversity of
Yeah.
scores,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
I guess I want to ask the question I was thinking though, like if this ended as a trilogy, would you say this was an honorable death or not? Just for fun.
Yeah. I would say honorable.
I'd
Honestly,
say honorable because they
I suppose
decided
so.
that this was going to be it. Like they had finished. So I
They
think
tied
it's
it all up.
yeah.
That
But I guess
said-
the fact that it didn't finish makes it.
No, but they didn't leave it open ended.
Oh, yeah, you're right,
In the
you're
way where you would
Yeah.
expect there to immediately be a follow up film.
Yeah,
So-
it does have a post credits, but it's not
Yeah.
a post credits that teases more. It's
Right.
just like,
It's just,
10 years
oh,
later.
and their story continues, but
Yeah.
you may never know.
But
Yeah.
we do know, and we will watch it.
Yeah.
Yay.
That said, I'm going to try to strip my opinion of 4 and 5 and
Strip it, Reese.
yeah, be open and objective to those movies. I'll try to be fresh. If I do,
I'm gonna try to be fresh.
yeah.
Okay, segue.
So yeah, next week we're talking about Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, the 4th film in this franchise. This is the first one to kind of separate itself from the original continuity and tell a solo story, which is something where it's a self-contained story. So that if there's one positive thing to glean from that, it doesn't set up a new
contains
trilogy.
itself.
Yes, it's a That's the one positive thing I remember from it, honestly.
We'll find out. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll talk about
I like
that.
mermaids.
Yay.
But you can find our podcast on all streaming apps, even though you're already listening to us on something. Maybe you could listen to us on something else. We have an Instagram page that you should definitely subscribe to. We're updating it at least weekly.
Oh, we're on it.
Yeah, and we got a Reddit, and we got a Spotify playlist of soundtracks, of tracks from the various scores of all the movies that we cover.
Yeah, it's on YouTube and Tidal now. I got Tidal up.
Yeah, so check that out. Lots of good music.
I will also say, if you do like us, please subscribe, follow whatever the streaming app's word is for following us, because it's important for us and our growth. So
And rate us on Apple. Give us like 5 stars. If you want to rate us any less, just don't listen to me.
Like, subscribe.
Share with your friends on whatever social media you use.
Yeah. We're
Do
trying
all
to get
the things. Ring
we're trying to
that
get the word
bell.
out there. Maybe sometime we'll include our fans when we get more of them and have them help us select franchises to talk about.
maybe a Patreon.
Might do
in the
like a
future.
raffle type situation.
We should start naming them.
Unless
Yeah. All right. Next week on Stranger Tides. It's going to be interesting. I haven't seen it in a long time. None of us have seen it in a long time. Noah, have you even seen it?
I have not seen it.
Wow.
Ooh.
All right, same page here.
All right. Cool.
Yay.
Interesting. All right. This is going to be fun. All right. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Sail the seas for eternity? What about port? I prefer rum. Rum's good.